We're going to look at vaccines and South Africa's decision to halt its rollout of the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine after a study showed disappointing results against its new COVID variant has left many in shock within the country and around the world as well. Several Western governments have rushed to offer support for the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine, and here in India as well, India has said that there's no case of the variant found in South Africa of COVID here in India. It's not been found here so far, and also that India has faith in the AstraZeneca vaccine, and more have been ordered. Remember, this is one of the main vaccines that we're using right now. It's known as COVID here in India. Well, to talk more about the case in South Africa, we're now joined by a member of the African Task Force for Coronavirus, Professor Salim S. Abdul Karim. Thank you so much for joining us, Professor, again on the show. First and foremost, we talked about how various governments have reacted, but tell us about the reaction in South Africa, because you were really counting on this particular vaccine as a part of your vaccine drive. It's much cheaper and the logistics are much easier.
Yes, absolutely. When we originally developed the South African COVID-19 vaccine plan, it had always called for a diversity of different candidates of vaccines. And right now we are moving forward with 3 candidates and probably will expand further. An AstraZeneca vaccine, or COVID as we have it, is one of the key vaccines that are part of this overall program. And so it is very disappointing to us to hear the results of a study. It must be pointed out that it's quite a small study and only looked at young people. Yes. And so it only really assessed the efficacy of the vaccine against mild disease. So we have a bit of uncertainty about whether it prevents severe disease. And the reaction here in South Africa has been, oh, now we don't know whether it's going to work. We need to ensure we have the data before we can proceed. So there's concern that it's going to delay our rollout. There's concern that the vaccine may not work. There's some people are arguing, well, the vaccine will work, so why didn't we just give it anyway? So all kinds of views, very important in the democracy.
So how are you now proceeding? I also read that you're going to do a wider study in which there'll be many more participants of the AstraZeneca vaccine, so all is not lost and all those doses won't go to waste. You will be doing a larger study. If you could tell us about that.
So the plan, as we've proposed it, it's still under debate, hasn't been adopted yet by the government, is that we've proposed a 2-step rollout program where for the first 100,000 people, we would vaccinate them and we would monitor what the hospitalization rates are. If the hospitalization rates are below our threshold, and then we know that it's now protective, we can roll it out to giving it to the rest of the 1 million doses. If it turns out it's higher, then we'll have to either wait for the AstraZeneca booster shot or give them another vaccine. That way, we still are rolling out the AstraZeneca vaccine, but we're rolling it out in a more systematic and careful way, because we don't want to find we've vaccinated 1 million people and then find that it doesn't work in preventing hospitalization. We'd rather resolve that upfront.
All right, and your reaction, to the world's reaction to South Africa's decision, because you had all these countries, then jumping up to the defense of the AstraZeneca vaccine, because already there was talk about how some countries in Europe chose not to use it for the above 65 years old because they felt there's not enough data available on that. And, after South Africa's decision, again, a lot of responses, health ministers coming forward and saying, no, we trust the AstraZeneca vaccine.
Yeah, I think, there are many shortcomings in the way the AstraZeneca vaccine trials research program worked. And one of the shortcomings is the lack of adequate data on the safety and efficacy in adults, not just in South Africa, but globally. And so there's quite a lot of concern about rolling it out to the elderly. In South Africa, when we look at what's available, we really need this study that was done in South Africa was done by AstraZeneca. And so it would be very important for AstraZeneca to now share with us the evidence that they have that the vaccine does work in preventing severe disease and hospitalizations. Without their evidence to show that, we have to try and collect that evidence ourselves. And we would prefer that AstraZeneca provide that because it's their vaccine. I think as we look at the situation, we have to recognize that we are trying to deal with a pandemic and there will be some uncertainty and we have to work with that uncertainty. We don't necessarily have to, throw everything out just because there's uncertainty. We'll collect the data as we roll out.
Right. And Professor Karim, also, what is the situation currently in South Africa in terms of this new variant that was discovered there and that's been found to be more infectious? What is the situation right now?
So we had originally anticipated that we would have a second wave in January. And that was really on the basis that during December, it's our festive period, and there's a lot of movement of people. And so they would, start spreading the virus again, because we've been in low transmission pretty much since August. Now, what happened that we did not anticipate was two things. The first was that young people, especially university students and high school students, when they finished their final examinations in the beginning of November, that they would go and have parties, and large parties with thousands and with alcohol. And so they created the super spreading events. And the second that we did not anticipate was this new variant. This new variant spreads faster. It is able to escape natural immunity and also is able to escape some of the vaccine immunity. So it's definitely the kind of variant you do not want to have in your country. And in countries that where it's already been found, efforts are really underway and very laudably to try and contain this variant.
All right, Professor Karim, thank you so much for joining us here on NDTV.
A pleasure.